From Angela Hill's bra insert dropping on stage. To Lidenez telling her corner she needs to poop. To Justine Kish, who straight up defecated during a match.
Holding Kish, I mean, she's going from back mount to half guard to mount because Kish isn't fighting the hooks, which are the legs that go in.
Competing at high altitude in front of a packed crowd of nearly 20,000 fans in Mexico City should have been a career highlight for Lupita Godinez. Instead, the Mexican-Canadian strawweight found herself fighting a much more personal battle inside the octagon that UFC Fight Night. Moreno versus Royval 3 on March 29, 2025. Godinez took on Brazil's Julia Polastri in a matchup that appeared tailor-made for her wrestling-heavy style. Through the opening 2 rounds, she was clearly in control, repeatedly scoring takedowns, dominating on the ground, and outlanding Polastri by a wide margin. However, things took an unexpected turn during the break before the final round. Cameras zoomed in on Godinez in her corner, where she appeared visibly uncomfortable and distressed. Moments later, she made a blunt and very human admission to her coaches, one that instantly spread across social media and became an overnight meme. Despite the situation, Godinez stayed focused and pushed through the final 5 minutes. She secured a unanimous decision victory, though her pace slowed slightly as Polastri attempted a late comeback. Later, during an interview on the MMA Hour with Ariel Helwani, Godinez explained what had really been going on. She revealed that she entered fight week already feeling unwell and spent much of Friday and Saturday dealing with severe stomach problems. The discomfort followed her right up until walkout time, including one last frantic trip to the bathroom before heading to the cage. Laughing about it afterward, she admitted she has a habit of speaking without a filter, saying whatever pops into her head in the moment. She also joked that if the fight had been scheduled for 5 rounds instead of 3, the outcome might have been very different. For reasons unrelated to the scorecards, the issue wasn't isolated to her alone. Several fighters on the card reported similar gastrointestinal problems, possibly linked to the extreme altitude of over 7,300 feet or issues with food and water. One athlete, Joe Pfeiffer, was even forced to pull out of his bout due to relentless vomiting and diarrhea. Online, fans quickly drew comparisons to another infamous UFC moment. Memes flooded social media, including edited photos of Godinez paired with poop emojis and captions like, "When the altitude hits different." Rather than shy away from it, she leaned into the joke, laughing about wearing a diaper in the future and proudly pointing out that she managed to keep everything under control until after the fight. While Godinez's situation was awkward, she avoided the kind of disaster that struck the next fighter on this list, Justine Kish.
You're doing amazing. You got 1 more round, you got 5 minutes. You do this all day. Here's your mouth guard.
Decision, though she appeared slightly less aggressive as Polastri.
After the shocking incident, Justine Kish refused to quit. She fought all the way to the final horn, ultimately losing by unanimous decision on the judges' scorecards. Remarkably, she later admitted she wasn't immediately aware of what had happened inside the cage. In post-fight interviews, Kish said she noticed an unpleasant smell, but assumed it came from the arena or her opponent. Once the truth became clear, she handled the situation with unexpected humor and resilience. She took to social media with a now famous post, writing, "I am a warrior and I will never quit. It happens. Be back soon." The tweet quickly went viral and earned widespread respect from fans for her honesty and composure. Felice Herrig later confirmed that she noticed the incident while applying the choke, describing it as unpleasant, but also praising Kish's toughness for refusing to tap. The moment even led to unexpected sponsorship opportunities, including interest from hygiene brands that leaned into the viral nature of the clip. Kish later explained that she suffers from colitis, a condition affecting the digestive system. Combined with severe weight cuts and intense abdominal pressure from submission holds, accidents like this can occur. Despite becoming an infamous UFC moment, Kish continued her MMA career with professionalism and dignity. While Kish's incident was deeply personal, the next fighter on this list suffered an entirely different kind of exposure, one that directly impacted the outcome of her fight.
incredible resolve in fighting off the submission, but her efforts proved costly as it appears that she may have, had an accident that left brown stains on the canvas.
As the bra insert hit the stage in full view of the cameras, Angela Hill instantly covered her face and burst out laughing. Shaking her head in disbelief, she tried to regain composure while the commission officials scrambled to retrieve it. Within moments, Hill reset, stepped back on the scale, hit the 115-pound limit exactly, and posed confidently for photos. Afterward, she joked about the incident, admitting her only thought in that split second was, "Please don't drop my boob." Despite the awkwardness, she made it clear that successfully making weight was all that really mattered. The clip quickly went viral. TikTok edits, YouTube shorts, and reaction videos racked up millions of views within days. One particularly popular slow-motion edit focused on Hill's genuine laughter, turning what could have been a humiliating moment into a light-hearted and relatable one. Fans praised her composure, with many commenting that only Angela Hill could turn a wardrobe mishap into entertainment. The moment sparked broader conversations about weigh-in procedures and the intense pressure of weight cutting, especially for women navigating last-minute adjustments under public scrutiny. At 40 years old, Hill used the situation to show that even seasoned veterans aren't immune to awkward slip-ups, and that embracing them with humor can humanize the sport. While Hill laughed off her mishap, the next fighter faced backlash after publicly blaming her weight miss on her menstrual cycle. Jocelyn Edwards, and the period weight mismaking weight is considered a core responsibility in mixed martial arts, and failing to do so often comes with financial penalties and reputational damage. Panamanian bantamweight Jocelyn Edwards learned this firsthand during weigh-ins for UFC Kansas City on April 14, 2023 that Edwards stepped on the scale at 136.5 pounds, half a pound over the non-title limit, forcing her fight with Lucy Pudilova to proceed at a catchweight. As per regulations, Edwards forfeited 20% of her purse. The miss drew heavy criticism, especially since it marked her second failure to make weight in less than a year. Inside the cage, Edwards and Pudilova delivered a competitive, gritty 3-round striking battle. Edwards landed the harder shots overall, but Pudilova controlled the pace late. The judges ultimately awarded Edwards a narrow split decision, a verdict that only intensified debate online. During the post-fight media scrum, Edwards addressed the weight miss directly. She explained that her menstrual cycle had started unexpectedly during the final stages of her cut, causing water retention that made shedding the last pounds nearly impossible despite sauna sessions and extreme measures. She emphasized that she wasn't offering excuses, only context. Reactions were sharply divided. Some fighters and fans sympathized, acknowledging how hormonal changes can affect the body. Others, including fellow UFC competitor Miranda Maverick, pushed back publicly, stating that all female fighters deal with menstrual cycles and must plan accordingly. The controversy sparked broader discussions around gender-specific health challenges in MMA and whether weight-cutting protocols should be more individualized. Edwards continued competing but struggled with additional weight issues in the years that followed, eventually prompting calls for her to move up a division. While Edwards' explanation stirred controversy, the next fighter went viral for a very different reason, complaining about repeated groin strikes on live television. Joanne Wood's groin strike frustration illegal strikes are part of MMA, but recovery time is supposed to be guaranteed, at least in theory. Scottish flyweight Joanne Wood found that this standard wasn't consistently applied at UFC 286 in London on March 18, 2023, competing in front of over 17,000 fans at the O2 Arena. Would face Brazil's Luana Carolina in a crucial fight after a difficult stretch in her career. Throughout the bout, Wood absorbed multiple knees that landed low during clinch exchanges. The first incident happened early, and Wood powered through. The second caused visible discomfort, briefly stopping the action. A third strike later in the fight pushed her frustration to the surface. Despite the fouls, no point deductions were issued, and Wood was never given extended recovery time. Still, she adjusted mid-fight and leaned on her Muay Thai experience, ultimately outlanding Carolina and earning a split decision victory. But it was her post-fight interview that stole the spotlight. Speaking candidly, Wood vented her frustration, pointing out that she had been hit in the balls multiple times and questioning why she wasn't given the same recovery time male fighters routinely receive. Her blunt honesty, delivered with unmistakable Scottish humor, went viral almost instantly. Fans and analysts debated whether female fighters are treated differently when it comes to groin strikes, noting that women don't wear protective cups, potentially making such fouls even more painful. The moment reignited discussions around officiating standards and equal application of the rules. Wood later clarified that while the strikes were disruptive, they fueled her determination rather than breaking it, a testament to her toughness under unfair circumstances. While Wood battled through repeated fouls, the next fighter's embarrassment came from a single reckless decision that ended a title fight in seconds. Kat Zingano's 14-second title disaster championship bouts are usually tactical affairs, but at UFC 184 on February 28, 2015, Kat Zingano rewrote that script in the worst possible way, entering the fight undefeated and riding major wins over Miesha Tate and Amanda Nunes. Zingano was widely viewed as a legitimate threat to dominant champion Ronda Rousey. The matchup headlined a packed Staples Center after the original main event fell through. When the bell rang, Zingano charged forward immediately, launching a flying knee in an all-or-nothing opening attack. The move missed badly and played directly into Rousey's strengths. Rousey sidestepped, clinched, executed a flawless judo trip, and transitioned seamlessly into her trademark armbar. Zingano tapped just 14 seconds into the first round, setting a record for the fastest submission in a UFC title fight at the time. Commentators were stunned. Joe Rogan famously called it one of the most reckless decisions ever seen in a championship bout. Zingano herself admitted afterward that the hype and pressure got to her, leading her to rush instead of settle in. The loss derailed her momentum completely. After taking time away to recover physically and emotionally, she never fully regained her previous form. Though she retired years later with respect for her accomplishments, the 14-second defeat remains the moment most fans remember. Zingano rushed in recklessly, but the next champion barely moved at all and paid the price in booze. Rose Namajunas and the silent title lost by 2022. Rose Namajunas was already a two-time UFC strawweight champion known for her creativity, composure, and championship grit. Her rematch with Carla Esparza at UFC 274 carried major narrative weight, a chance to rewrite history. Instead, it became infamous. Across 5 rounds, both fighters remained extremely cautious. Namajunas circled, rarely committing to offense, while Esparza attempted takedowns with limited success. Significant strikes were scarce, and the crowd grew increasingly restless.
I mean, if she wanted to do something about it, she would have to like say something during the fight, you know?
Right.
I know sometimes people, like when they lose like that, they kind of try to find every little reason of maybe why.
But by the later rounds, boos echoed throughout the arena. Referee warnings changed nothing. When the fight ended, the judges awarded Esparza a split decision, reclaiming the title. The backlash was immediate. UFC President Dana White openly criticized the fight, calling it unacceptable for a championship bout. Namajunas' post-fight comments, where she expressed confidence she had done enough, only intensified criticism a year later. She reflected honestly, admitting she was far too passive and calling the performance embarrassing. The fight is now frequently cited as one of the least active title bouts in UFC history, a cautionary tale about overthinking and fear-based strategy. While Namajunas had one notoriously bad night, the final fighter on this list accumulated a career's worth of awkward moments. Miesha Tate. A career full of oops moments. Miesha Tate is a pioneer of women's MMA and a former UFC champion. But her long career also produced a collection of unintentionally viral moments. From wardrobe malfunctions during high-level fights, to awkward post-fight interviews, to slips and falls during her comeback run, Tate's mishaps became staples in MMA highlight compilations. Rather than damaging her legacy, they made her more relatable. Whether it was equipment shifting during grappling exchanges, emotional reactions in heated rivalries, or brutal honesty after tough losses, Tate never hid from the spotlight. She owned the moments, laughed at herself, and kept moving forward. After her final retirement, she transitioned into commentary and media work, often joking about her career's oops moments and how they shaped her resilience. That in a sport built on toughness, Tate's willingness to be vulnerable helped humanize MMA and reminded fans that even legends have awkward chapters.
Interview.
Hey, listen, she kneed me in the balls 3 times in there. I even looked at Herb Dean, he looked back, and then I was like, no, don't get into that. But yeah, I mean, why did we not get 5 minutes? I needed it in there. I felt like I was going to